I was in boot camp, so I was in the Army Reserve, and I went to boot camp, and I remember my buddy getting he loved cottage cheese. He was like trying to eat really clean, and I remember like, and we used to in chow hall you couldn't talk, and you basically had to look at your food and just they called it poke and choke, privates, poke and choke, and so he went and got a heaping bowl of cottage cheese. It was like over the edge, right? And he's sitting down there, he's eating, and I'm sitting right next to him, and all of a sudden, like I can sense this presence, and the drill sergeant was like over the top of him, like watching him. He goes, "You like cottage cheese, Private?" Yes, Sergeant. Eat it, and then he, finish it. He goes, "Go get yourself another bowl, Private." he did. He sure did. Like you get told to do something like that, he went and got it. And then the drill sergeant brought him outside and rolled him, smoked him for 20 or 30 minutes. He said there was cottage cheese everywhere.
That just seems rude. That seems like something Vince would do just to piss with you, right? Right? Does that not? There's a Vince McMahon everywhere. That's just so all right. What's his punishment? Liking cottage cheese? You know what I mean? I think was it
just they just mess with you. They just mess with you all the time. Remember one time like I saw some hard boiled eggs. Right? There's like six hard-boiled eggs. I grabbed like 4 of them. And the drill sergeant was like, "Oh, everybody can thank Private Anderson for eating all the hard-boiled eggs." I don't eat any fucking hard-boiled eggs.
When was Johnny Ace the sergeant? Oh, man. That's crazy. Do you know what? It'd be funny to actually put a camera, a reality TV show, where you watch what goes on, in the Navy. My auntie, she was in the Navy, and she said that because one person hadn't like folded their clothes properly, they all got woke up at like 3 a.m. and they were to be up at 7. They all got woke up at 3 a.m., had to put on their uniforms, roll down a muddy hill, come back, wash them, then wait for them to dry, then fold them, then go back to bed. Says and that every time that would happen, like it proper gets Full Metal Jacket, where you're like, right, this person's heat in the locker room, so to speak. Oh, by the way, this next question, this is going to be a tough one. This is a tough one for me. Here we go. So the name is Norwajdi Wakayudin. Norwajdi Wakayudin.
Say that 10 times fast.
Norwajdi Wakayudin. That sounds like a Mortal Kombat move. Apologies if that's your name, really. But this, we'll call him Nor for short, says, "Hope you are doing great every day. Good wishes to you from Malaysia. Been a huge fan since No Mercy 2005. My question, how was your experience to be part of the NWA Power? Maybe some stories from the time. I must say, I really enjoyed the 2019 NWA. Thank you for your time, sir."
That was I was only there for 2 or 3 tapings, but I really had a blast. And I worked with Eli Drake, who's LA Knight. Now everyone knows him as LA Knight. Did a little program with him. I'll tell you, I had some experience working with Billy Corgan at TNA, and it was one of my favorite storylines that I was a part of, and it was with Tom Latimer. And basically, Billy was our producer, and I remember he said, "Here's what I'm thinking, but I want to include all of us in on this. If you guys have any ideas, please let's talk about it." And so it was like, it was really, really short-lived though. It was only like I want to say we got 4 or 5 episodes of TV out of it. But so I had worked with him in TNA. I was familiar with him. So working for him at NWA was great. And I really, I appreciated what he was doing with that old school style that wrestling in the studio wrestling.
Yeah.
So yeah, good times. And then the other thing was we roomed. They had us room together, so they booked like a huge Airbnb. They put like me, Tim Storm, and who was Trevor Murdoch in,
Yes.
and so we got to like actually hang out with each other at night before. It was a good time. My wife, I remember going to the store and getting like all kinds of steak and chicken and cooking food for everybody.
It seems amazing.
Experience.
Tom Latimer is actually, he does a lot of shows quite close to me. He goes by the name Bram now in ICW.
That's my boy.
Yeah. He was married to Charlotte Flair. I didn't know that until maybe a year ago or something like that. He's a big handsome guy. He's definitely got the Drew vibes, Drew McIntyre. Why do we not see a lot more Tom Latimer on TV now, Bram? You would think that he would be perfect for NXT.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He's phenomenal. He's got a phenomenal look. He's believable. When he puts his weight behind like a storyline, you believe it because he believes it. You can see that he believes it. Like,
yeah,
he's the type of guy that I'm happy that he's a friend of mine, not an enemy of mine, kind of thing.
Yeah, I can understand that. No, he's definitely someone that we would like to see a little bit more of in the future, of course. Connor, we're going to go over to Instagram now. Before we do, just remember everybody to follow Mic Check with Mr. Anderson on every social possible. We exist everywhere. If you're not already following Mr. Ken Anderson everywhere, which you are, go and follow him, of course, because you don't want to miss it. They've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. So, that's the best way for you to get in touch with us and for us to keep in touch with you. Okay, Connor, over to Instagram. What we got?
So, first question, and before I start reading names, I'm just going to apologise in advance. Probably will butcher a few of them. First one, it's pretty easy though, the first one, so let's hope. So first one's from Jersey JZ74, and he asked, or she, I don't know, asked, how does the audience affect your performance?
That's very, like, the audience is the most important part of what we do, I think, right? Like, I never got the chance to wrestle during the pandemic. Like, the stuff that the guys were doing at WWE and where you're not wrestling for anybody. So I've never experienced that. I've always been, you feed off the crowd's emotion. So I'm always listening to the crowd, and I will start transitioning to do things based on the crowd's reaction or based on them not doing anything. So I think, crowd's super, super important. And I can say that sometimes it can fuck you up. Like the what stuff? Oh my God. WWE used to hand you a script. They're like 2.5 pages sometimes. Here's and you got to start memorizing it because you've only got 2 hours, 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours before we go live. And I have to go out there and perform this. And I've got other stuff to do. I've also got to cut this promo backstage, and I have to put my match together, and I got to take photos for this other thing. That can be really stressful. So you're memorizing, and oftentimes when I go back and I watch my stuff from WWE, I can see that, like, I'm not actually speaking from the heart. I'm regurgitating words on a paper that somebody handed to me. But there have been those times where somebody, like, they'll start fucking. One time I was at TNA and I was doing it was me, EC3, and Tyrus. We were doing it was like a political they had 3 podiums and we were talking, or maybe it was just 2 podiums. It was me and EC3 having like what do they call it? Where the 2 candidates talk back and forth, like a debate, right? We're having a debate. And somebody kept yelling, Green Bay sucks! Green Bay sucks! And I'd start talking and he would, and I just stopped and I was like, hey man, do you want to come in the ring with me? And I knew that it was a tape show that I knew I could get away with this. I was like, hey, do you want to come in the ring and do a bit with me or something like that? You want to tell some jokes? No. And then I was like, did anybody here, hey, just quick show of hands, anybody here pay money to see this guy today? Did any of you come to see this guy today? Boo! And then they start jumping on him, right? So I got the crowd to turn against him. That was the way that I was able to, okay, are we good? We good? You're done? All right. Moving on then. But like it can fuck with you sometimes.
Yeah, I think the what thing's probably the biggest test for a wrestler to see. Did you come under any really bad what chants?
My first night on Raw, I got drafted over to Raw. I come out, I open the show with a promo. And it was, I believe it was right after Vince had blown himself up in the limousine, right? So I was talking about Mr. McMahon was a father to me and this and that. And they started the what thing, and Vince had just that week said, I don't want you guys acknowledging the crowd anymore. Which was, well, excuse me? He was like, I don't want you. I want you to pretend like they're not even there. Which goes against all of your training, all of your experiences, whatever. And so I went out there and they started doing the what thing. And I was like, don't start with that what crap, which makes them do it more, right? Like, and I went back and I remember walking through and I actually I remember thinking that was my first night on Raw. All right. I'm kind of like, strutting up the ramp and I walk through the curtain. And when you've done well, man, you come through that curtain, people are like giving you the thumbs up, pat on the back. When it's not gone well, everybody's like, trying to, get busy doing something. And I came through and it was like that. And I was like,
oh no.
Yeah. And Vince goes, that was the worst fucking promo I've ever heard in my life.
Oh no.
And I was like, what? And then I was like, what didn't you like about it? You're out there chewing your fucking gum. And you knew damn well when you said when you told them to shut up that they were going to come harder. And I was like, yes, I did. Like, I'm sorry. That was what in the moment, that's what I thought. And he goes, well, you need to think differently, pal. He goes, your first night on Raw, you shit the bed. I remember telling that to Steve Austin, because Steve and I talked pretty regularly at the time, and I remember I was at home and we were chatting, and I told him that. He was like, he said you shit the bed.
God, how'd that make you feel? Like Vince McMahon is Vince McMahon.
It was frustrating. It was super frustrating at the time because I was trying to figure out. He was doing that to me a lot. And he was always like, you're too over the top. You're too, and basically all the stuff that got me to the dance in the first place, he was now telling me not to do that. And I just could not wrap my head around it. Looking back on it, I totally get it. And I get what he meant. And honestly, it's cringy to watch myself sometimes because I'm so over the top and so Jim Carrey and, but at the time, that was me. That was my character. That was what I had developed. And I remember having discussions. I had one particular discussion with Jericho one time. I was like, I don't know what to do, man. Like, every time I go through the curtain, and I immediately look to him, which I fucking hate that I do that. I don't want to be the guy that's looking, can I get a pat on the back, boss? Did I do a good job tonight? But, that's ultimately what you're after. And I remember he said, hey, he goes, I know it's frustrating. He goes, but just know that he obviously cares. He sees something in you, or he wouldn't fucking care at all. He wouldn't say anything. You would come to the curtain and he would go. And then, so that made me feel somewhat good. He was like, he's trying to break you down so that he can build you up. It was kind of like boot camp. They break you down so that they can build you up in their own image or whatever.
Mm-hmm. What's the greatest piece of, what's the word I'm looking for? What was the nicest experience you ever had with Vince when you'd done something great and he came to you and really?
I mean, the first night that when I debuted, I came through the curtain and he was like, I was great. And it was a velocity match, which Vince never, somebody had told him, Steve Lombardi had told him, because I did a promo with Lombardi earlier in the day. And I cut this promo. I remember somebody said, like, hey, you need to go see Steve Lombardi, Brooklyn Brawler, and he wants you to cut a promo. So I went into him and he was like, maybe you do this. And he was like giving me, some, maybe, you say something like this. And he would like spit out some lines and I would go, okay. And I would be chewing on that in my head. And then he would go, or maybe this. And he would say something else. And it was kind of fucking with my head because I just almost get something solidified, and then he would change it. And I just said, like, I think I got it. I'm good. Can we do it? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And I did it. And he was like, that was really good. I liked it. He goes, I'm going to go tell Vince you're ready. Seriously. He goes, I'm going to go tell him. Like, that was really good. And he did. He went and said something to Vince. And I think that's ultimately what caused that match to go from being just a dark match to being a televised match, was that conversation that he had with Brawler. So I thank Steve Lombardi, from the bottom of my heart. But that was when I came back through that curtain that night. He was like, boom. And then moving forward, I remember Vince saying to me, I want you to start hanging out with me. He goes, I don't want you to kiss my ass. But he goes, I want to get to know you a little better. I want you to know the business side of things. I want you to know why we do what we do. And personally, like, I was always more concerned about like perception. I was like, I'm going to be looked at as like the kiss ass. I don't want to do that. And I just never really did it.
Oh no. So Vince gave you an open gate.
Yep.
And you never went through it.
Yep.
Oh man. I would have just done that just purely for the banter. Watch him eating his clean meat with his fork because he's too scared to touch it with his hands. I've watched a lot of wrestling podcasts.
Steaks with ketchup.
What? Yeah, bad steak.
Yep.
Damn.
Before we go on to the next question, I realize there's probably another side to maybe what that person was asking.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of crowd, reaction, if you're meant to be a face, I don't think you've ever experienced this, but you can tell me, and I'm sure you know plenty of people who have. If you're coming out and you're a face, especially if you're getting a push, and the crowd is just booing, they are rejecting you. What happens then behind the scenes, but also like for you in the ring?
That's a tough one. It's way easier if it's going the other way. If like you're supposed to be a heel and they're cheering for you, it's way easier to turn that around and flip that. But to take the crowd from, you're supposed to be loved and cheered to, no, we actually fucking hate that guy. I think you can just look at some actual instances in history where that's happened in John Cena and Roman Reigns, right? Like two guys that were, according to the company, the good guy. And the crowd was just like, no, we want you to die.
They really just pushed through with those two. They just went, nah, we're just going to ignore the crowd. We're not going to, it took how many years of Roman? 6 years before they went, yeah, let's change his gimmick, make him a heel, and then boom, that's the best thing ever done.
Yep.
And with Cena, it took him becoming part-time before that started to change as well.
Yep.
Or it took a Royal Rumble return from an injury he got. What happened again with his injury? That again, later episode we can talk about.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Loads of that. But let's just say you had a help in making people, or maybe you didn't have a help. Your name was mentioned, and one of the reasons as to why people actually remembered that they loved John Cena. So, they say you take a negative and turn it upside down, So if you're going to take any heat for that, then you also have to take credit. You know what I mean? You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
So if, the internet online says through the match that he got injured and your name's mentioned, then they're going to have to then at least put some credit to you and say, well, look at that reaction he got when he came back. That wouldn't have happened if...
I will say this about that. Like, what we do is dangerous. Like, it is a very you can get injured walking to the ring. You've seen people jump over the top rope and break both their legs. Like, stuff happens, right? And there's a difference between being in the ring with somebody when they got injured and actually causing said injury. Are two totally different things. And then you also have to look at, like, what was the cause behind that? Was it just complete fucking, this guy didn't know what the hell he was doing? Or was it just he zigged when I thought he was going to zag? And it's just,
one of those things, right?
Yeah, wrestling. Sometimes wrestling hurts.
Yeah. And that's something we can definitely explore that and explore all the news articles and what went on around that time later on in this series for sure. It's something that has forever been he said, she said, but I don't think we've truly got a real understanding from your side. So that's something we could talk about in the future.
Absolutely.
But there was a lot of positive that came from that. Cena returned at the Rumble, and people remembered what they loved.
That was
for a few months anyway.
That was my Rumble. That was the Rumble that I participated in too. The interesting part of that was, he was a surprise to everybody. They didn't tell anybody. I remember even putting the match together. So they've got 30 of us or 29 of us in a room. And we're going through, and they're going through, like, then this person comes out, and then this is sort of what we have, and then you guys kind of break off and figure out a little spot that you can do. This is where we need to get to. Then this person comes in, then this person eliminates this person, and this person, and then this person. It was just like, and then they would, when like the first 5 eliminations occurred, they would go, all right, you 5 can leave. And they would, and then we kept going and kept going and kept going until, and then by the way, that was like the last, I think there was 8 people left, 7 or 8 people, I believe, when Cena was going to make his entrance. And so it was just told to, like, that little select few, like whatever that was, that 8 or 9 people, 7 or 8 or 9 people, that was, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a good way, isn't it? I think one of the
kind of cool. Because here's the thing, like, you never know who the stooge is.
You never came close, not once, learning who's stooging off to the dirt sheets? Never.
I did. I have suspicions. I'm not going to get into it, but like, I did have one time, because I remember being at OVW when I was there, and like, something would occur, and by the time I got home and looked, it would be verbatim what happened, the conversations that occurred. I'd be like, who is it? Who's saying that? Like, who is stooging this off? Because it's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And and then years later, somebody had to, I completely removed at some point, I went from looking at the dirt sheets to I don't look at dirt sheets at all anymore. I just don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really. I try to stay away from negative. If I see somebody comment negatively, like I just ignore it. But I remember somebody saying like, "Hey, so and so said this about you," and I was like, "Oh, I thought that person and I were cool." And then, I went and looked at it, and I remember I emailed that person, and I was like, "Hey, thanks for all the kind words. Love you." And sorry, that was that was supposed to be a private conversation had between me and one of these dirt sheet writers, and I was like,
"Oh, you weren't supposed to know that. I think you're a prick. You weren't supposed to know. Sorry about that."
Oh, I don't have private conversations with dirt sheet writers.
Right.
What are you doing having private conversations with dirt sheet writers? It was like one of those. Like,
did this person then graduate from OVW?
And then it made sense.
Did this person go up to the main roster? Maybe.
Maybe.
Is this person still with the company now?
This person is still alive. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, does this person have black hair?
Fair enough. That's I act here as a conduit for the people at home going, tell us, Ken. So if you would like Ken to tell you, just hashtag tell us Ken on social media and in the comments, and we'll just look at that and see what's what. But nah, hey, it is what it is. You good? Here's the only question I'll ask: are you good with that person now? Is it good?
I mean, I'm not like I don't think about it very much, other than me just telling you that story right now. Like I don't think about it, and I don't think they think about me. And
yeah, fair enough. Fair play. Connor, so what questions we got?
Next one's quite an easy one. I'd imagine it would be. So, who's your favorite Packer? I guess we'll go current and also all time.
Connor, sorry, Packer means something different in Scotland.
Oh yeah, that did run through my head.
He's referring to the Green Bay Packers football.
Yes,
American football. Brett Favre obviously was a huge source of entertainment growing up. Like he gave me, I think it was 19 years of entertainment in Green Bay. I will say that now he's a fucking heel for the, I don't know if you guys are familiar with American football or whatever, but like it was found out that he was taking money from like the poorest people in Mississippi and funneling it into his own little pet projects and stuff like that. So he's a fucking villain now, but he was my favorite. But all time, like Sterling Sharp was the wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. I think he went in the Hall of Fame a couple years ago. Shannon Sharp's older brother, and I think he was a tight end. He wasn't a wide receiver. He's a big dude. But yeah, I used to love watching him. He would make some, and the thing that I loved about him was, it's funny too, because I'm in wrestling where we showboat a ton, but I always hated showboating in professional sports. I hate it. And Sterling Sharp would score. He would just do like the craziest, make these craziest runs, catches, score a touchdown, and literally like hand the ball to the official and go back to the sidelines. Never celebrate. I love that about him.
Modesty. Connor, who's your favorite Packer?
Aaron Rodgers. Because one of my best friends, that's his name, and he used to play for the Packers. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. So he's my favorite, even though I've never watched him a single day of my life.
My only introduction
Kevin,
to
how about you?
Football. What's his name? Roger Podacter from Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
I know this man.
One of my favorite films of all time. Cookies, they're little footballs. That was my only really introduction as a child to American football. I wouldn't know anything about it. I don't even like Scottish football, which you guys call soccer, right?
Yeah.
Don't even like that. I was a wrestling kid through and through, man. The minute
Yeah.
I saw Hogan and Warrior, that was me. So I spent tunnel vision. So unfortunately, but in the future, I'm happy to watch a game of American football. Looks like fun. That, or I'll just watch Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Got to weigh up those options.
Yeah, for sure.
Options.
So the next question is from McGrath 8.24. So they say, met you in 2017 at a Ring of Honor show in Hopkins. It was yourself versus Marty Scurll. What was your experience like? And did Ring of Honor reach out for any more matches, or was it a one-off? He also says, thank you for taking the time at that show to talk to me and my buddy for a few minutes during the meet and greet.
No, that was I had a lot of fun working with Marty. I think he's a hell of a talent. We did a little tribute to Eddie Guerrero in that match. We did our own little twist on. Actually, it wasn't even our own little twist. I stole it from Austin Aries and Bobby Roode. I saw them do it in TNA once, so we kind of. The chair spot where Eddie hits the mat and then throws it to me and takes it bomb up, and the ref turns around. Well, then I can't remember if it was me or him, but say it was he whacks the mat, throws the thing to me, and then before the ref turned around, then I whacked it, threw the chair down, then I took a bump too. So we're both laying down. We're both trying to get away with the same thing. Yeah, just kind of that was a lot of fun. I had fun working with him. And no, it was just a one-off.
I saw MJF when I went to All In, the first one. MJF paid tribute by doing the same thing. I think he had been set up with a chair, and then he had essentially done something back. I can't remember what the exact. You probably see it if you go back and watch the actual televised show. But I remember laughing my head off, going, "Oh, a wee tribute," but they just took it that wee bit further. Kind of, it's good when you take something that people remember and put another twist on it. I mean, I suppose that's what wrestling is, right?
Yeah, you said it earlier. Nothing is brand new, right? Everything is borrowed or reused. You just have to figure out a way to put your own spin on it, make it yours.
Yeah. Logan Paul actually, the first time in wrestling where someone plays with a drone, I thought that was excellent. What do you think about that, actually, Logan Paul?
What was it?
Well, he done it at WrestleMania, and he does it quite often in matches now. There's a drone that flies around the arena, and the WWE have a live feed to it, so us at home are seeing this drone fly around the arena. But Logan Paul talks to it, and it comes in. He catches it, and then he'll let it go again. But the thing is, the last time he caught it, who was it that came up and done a move to him? Was it Dom? Was it Braun Breaker or someone?
I think it was Braun Breaker, and it just got destroyed.
Suplexed him right off the ring, but you get to see it through the eyes of the drone.
That's awesome. That's so creative. That's what wrestling's all about, right? That. Those moments of creativity. Hey, I've got an idea. That's the best.
Totally.
When you think of an idea like that, and then you get the green light, and then it works.
Yeah.
Those are those moments where you're in it, whether it's a big move or a big false finish or something like that, that gets the reaction that you were expecting. You're laying there going fuck yeah, we got him. That's the drug.
Totally. A lot of people are quite sour on Logan Paul being a YouTuber coming into wrestling, that old school mentality. I personally, as a viewer, think he's brilliant. And I think that, just look at that. The wrestlers, there's a lot of wrestlers that have done it the old school way, spent many years, and maybe are not as innovative as that. So I don't think he doesn't belong in WWE. I think he does.
I agree.
Totally.
Everybody always has that, dude. Everybody has a different story as to how they got to where they got. I remember for years being there and witnessing The Miz go through hell because he was just a reality star, and he didn't pay his dues in the business. And all of those people, I remember thinking at the time, would any of you have say that had happened to you, and you were a reality star, and then WWE came along and said like, hey, we're going to offer you this opportunity, would you go, I would really love to, but I didn't pay my dues, so I'm going to have to decline. Like,
yeah. Actually, it's one of those. It's like a child would ask that question, right? How does that make any sense?
Yep.
Some things just don't make sense and never have, but like just follow them anyway, right? Because it's the way it's done. In a sense, I think the Miz is phenomenal. I think he's.
Are you not entertained?
He's great.
Yeah, he's awesome. Which, I think look at longevity as well. Like the Miz, two-time world champ, and he's their go-to guy. He's the type of guy you don't see ever leaving WWE, right?
He was my first big pay-per-view match was in 2007 versus Batista at the Great American Bash. The Miz interviewed me before that match. He was the interview guy. Mm-hmm. He went from Tough Enough to he was on the active roster. He actually he didn't even win Tough Enough. Pewter won Tough Enough. He was like second place, I want to say, but he ended up getting a job anyways because people connected with him. And then it was just an uphill battle and trying to figure out where he fit and who he was as a character. And then, that's a guy that's gone through some shit.
Yeah, it's unfortunate and it's a shame. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's sitting in a position that most wrestlers would love to be in. I'm sure we could do a Miz episode in the future. You spend a lot of time with him, and clearly there's loads of stories there. Eh?
I was there when he got kicked out of the locker room.
Is there anything?
Just I remember there was I believe there was a couple instances. He talks about the one where he was eating chicken over somebody's bag. There was that, and then there was another one too where he got they kicked him out of the locker room. And when I first started, it was sort of that gatekeeper mentality. This guy doesn't belong here. He hasn't paid his dues, and they would make him change in the hallway. So we would wheel our bags in. We would go into talent locker room, and there was Miz sitting there just in the hallway, like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" It was pathetic. It was like felt bad for him.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately he showed them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only did he say that he belonged there, but I would, maybe say that he maybe surpassed some of the people that were trying to.
But in saying that, there's people he surpassed it. Mm-hmm. There's people that got that kind of treatment that didn't make it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, they used that in his character. I think when he started to get that push, that was when he was cutting promos a lot. Mm-hmm. I remember, I think the one thing he done, he was either just drafted or he just split up from John Morrison, and he came out every week and he was calling out John Cena. John Cena wasn't coming out, so he was saying, "I am 5-0 against John Cena," because John Cena's just not turned up.
Yeah.
And he was coming out every week, cutting a promo and then saying about stuff that was happening in the locker room. And I think it was only a year later he won the Money in the Bank, and then boom, WWE title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and they putting that stuff in there really, really sold it for people.
The story too that I heard of why what ended up making him turn the corner was kind of a funny one. I heard that People magazine did a special edition of their magazine. It was the top 50 or whatever reality superstars, and of course Miz was on The Real World, which was a hugely popular show on MTV. And one of the writers said, "Hey, Miz was on this. He's featured. He's number 10." And Vince was like, "What the fuck is The Real World?" And everybody was like, "What? You don't know what The Real World is?" And then they explained it to him, and then they were like, that was the thing that, well, fucking, let's do something with him. Got him. Why aren't we doing anything with him?
I think he said the same thing about Zack Ryder when he had seen a match of Zack Ryder's at the time, and he was like, that was great. Why are we not doing more with him?" And I watched that WrestleMania live, and I knew he was winning that.
Mm.
I sat on my couch with my friends, and I said, he's winning this. And they were like, aye, right. What makes you think? I says, his gear is like extra effort, right? I says, look at the look in his eye.
Mm.
There's something different about it. I says, he's winning that, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was a huge Zack Ryder fan.
Yeah.
And he stood on that ladder, and I went, and the Miz comes up to try and take him off.
Yeah.
And he won, and I popped so hard. I was like, I fucking knew it. There was something in the way he came to the ring that night that I was like, he's fucking winning it. And was it Raw before? He beat Jericho clean. I went, oh, he's just beat Jericho clean. There's a shift happening. It was a
little pep in his step, right? Like you can see it.
That's true. Like, if you know that as a performer, if you know here it's going my way, that you totally get that.
I guess it's impossible not to do that, right?
Yeah.
Not to be a little bit excited. Like when they told me that I was winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, it's like trying to no sell it, trying to act like it's just day at the office, but inside I'm going like, this is happening. This is happening. This is happening.
I just rewatched that match last night, actually, including the entrances. And, in my opinion, you couldn't tell from your entrance that you were going over. No, I think you've done a good job of hiding that. I've seen the opposite. Big smile in the face of people, but no, you couldn't
totally
tell.
meant that. I meant to do that.
And looking back, such an amazing lineup for that match. It's a great match overall. Yeah. This is going to take us down a different path here, but Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, I really miss when it was at Mania versus having its own pay-per-view. It was just so much bigger.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same?
Totally. Yep. There's something about it happening at Mania that's special because what's at stake. It's for the title. It's for all the marbles. Mm-hmm. So definitely.
Awesome. I think I'll crack on with the questions. Next one from Us Justing Land. They've asked, what is the difference between making in-ring work look believable versus perceived as sloppy? I always thought your stuff was the former, and I say that as someone who was smushed by your Ken Tom bomb. Sounds like someone who may have worked with you in the past.
That's a good buddy of mine, Justin. I think it's practice. You have to practice. What we do is really hard. It's really hard to make it look like we're hurting each other without actually hurting each other. And, you watch like some of the greatest, their punches. It takes a really long time to figure out how to take a full swing at somebody and not actually knock their lights out. So I think it's just practice and also knowing where you can lay certain things in. Again, sometimes wrestling hurts. Sometimes you just got to be like, I would rather have somebody on the flip side, I would rather have somebody hit me a little bit in a safe space, in a safe place, and feel it and have something to sell than for you to, hit me and everybody can tell, wow, he never touched him on there. Oh, he slapped his leg.
Mm-hmm. Especially now, by the way, because social media, it's harder now. There's a clip circulating of Braun Breaker, who, of course, everybody knows is phenomenally gifted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But was it CM Punk that he's in the ring and
his elbow just floating,
he's not even attempting to hit him. It's completely just so not even hitting him, and I suppose that's your worst nightmare as a performer for that to be circulating. Now, at the end of the day, it takes nothing away on the grand scheme of things of Braun Breaker at all. We know what's what, and it's just the internet's way going, look at this, you know what I mean? And it happens everywhere, and it happens to the best of them as well. But I can imagine that being stuff that keep you awake at night as a performer.
No, it does. I remember specifically one time, Bubba Ray I think bully Bubba Ray, whatever you want to call him, like he was known for being like snug sometimes. I never experienced that. Like I always experienced the other way. He was so light in the ring. And I remember one time we were working each other, and I felt like I was sitting on my ass in the middle of the ring, and I felt like a little tap. And so I just kind of did that. And then I went back and I watched the tape, and he like wound up, got his whole body into it, and he gave me this kick. And so then you just get this out of me, right? And so then, that looks terrible. So now I always I use my peripheral vision a lot. When I'm in the ring, I'm always trying to, if somebody's behind me, I'm trying to I can see that painting behind me right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that at least I can see when somebody winds up like that. I know that I have to sell it a little more.
And
it's all about the angles as well.
Yeah.
What was that?
By the time
you go first, Kev.
I was just going to say, by the time you got home that night, the dirt sheets reads Ken Anderson no sells Billy Ray.
Yeah.
Backstage. There's actually. Do you remember when?
They're in the pots.
You remember when Orton was in the ring and a fan ran in and genuinely hit him in the balls? That he's unaware, but he still sold it until he noticed it was a fan. Then he was like, "Nah, mate." He just gets straight up out of his, heart damaged stage. Craziness.
It used to guys would just hope and pray that somebody would jump in the ring with me. Open season. It's never happened to me. I was on a house show for WWE one time. Shane Helms was in the opener, and he was doing the Gregory Helms thing at the time, where he came to the ring. And so, like I said last week, there would be a camera set up on a tripod, and it would feed to a TV in the back. It was just kind of a faraway shot. It was a black and white shot, but we would sit there and watch. And I remember seeing something change, jaw jacking with this guy in the front row. And then the guy slides in. It was like Shane comes in the ring and he's still jaw jacking with him. And then he sits on the middle rope and holds the top rope open. Like, come on, motherfucker, come get in there. Come on. And the guy actually did. He slid in the ring, and Shane beat the fuck out of this guy. He kicked him he punted him in the face as he's sliding in on his belly under the bottom rope. He picks himself up and changes, catches him. Then he grabbed him around the waist, literally gut wrench suplexed him, and then flipped over and just started fucking raining some punches down on him. And security finally jumps in, and security pulls Shane away. Well, Jamie Noble his entrance music was hitting. So he comes to the ring, and they're supposed to do a hot start. So he slides in the ring, and he goes over to Shane, and he just starts teeing off on him. And Shane went, "Get the fuck off me." And he lets mush in the face. It's like, there's this other thing going on. And obviously Jamie didn't know what was going on. It was really funny. And the funniest part about that was, so they bring the guy back. They obviously arrest him, right? They bring him through the backstage, and they get him into a little room, and they're like, "What were you thinking? Why were you doing it?" And he was like, "Hey, man," he goes, "Shane was just, he was trash talking my girl, and then he told me he was like, get in the ring. So I was just defending my girl." And he goes, "I thought security was going to stop me when I went over the guardrail nice and slow." He goes, I went over the guardrail nice and slow, thinking somebody was going to stop me. And then he goes, once I got both feet on the other side of the guardrail, I was committed. I would have looked like a pussy if I did it. So I had to. And it was we went from being fuck that guy to, "You're all right, pal. You're all right."
He's one of us. We won't be pressing any charges. I wonder if that guy ever watches us. You need to hit up in the comments, and we'll get you on to get your recollection.
Whatever you do, don't try that. Don't ever try that.
Yeah. No, I can imagine.
It will not end well. It won't end well. But yeah, you can see if you watch. Then we got the tape and we watched it back a bunch of times, and you can see the guy literally put slowly gets one foot over the guardrail, and then he gets both, and he just kind of goes, oh, and he fucking slides in, and Shane proceeded to whoop the shit out of that guy.
There's a respect there for that guy. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Because he would have proper played into the story there while also not wanting to really hit him, which is insane. We have more questions, Connor?
Oh, yeah. We probably make our way through them, eh? So, Rocco Wrestling asks, whether it be in WWE or TNA, is there any moment in particular that stands out to you in your time there?
I mean, WWE, the two things that stand out to me were Mania, winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, the thing, you know, dumping Hornswoggle off the ladder, the little conversation that CM Punk and I had at the top of the ladder, and tribute to the troops. That was like one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. Going and getting to take a little piece of, like, these people are, you know, it's 140 degrees over in Iraq at times. These people are wearing full battle rattle all day, every day, most uncomfortable conditions. To be able to go and bring a little piece of home to those people and entertain them for a couple hours is really a cool, rewarding experience. And, you know, TNA, just the stuff that I did with Sting was like, you know, just such a cool experience. And again, the fan in me, and the cage match with Kurt, which I would like to actually, you know, as much as we can, like, go through that entire match, like dissect that at some point.
Mm-hmm. Some point very soon.
Very soon. Very soon.
Yeah. I mean, we've not even touched upon your TNA career yet properly, and it's something we will in so many different aspects and eras. The Surfers thing, like, that's, everybody talks about, remember, Imposter Kane, Imposter Undertaker. I think, you know, Imposter Sting is essentially what they should call you. But I think we deem that the Surfer Sting era of Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. I mean, I have, like, there's trading cards that TNA put out of me as Surfer Sting.
What?
So,
do you own it?
I do. Yep.
That's something that you won't lose, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
No, not when it's something like that. That's one of those proper. That's when the fan inside you kind of comes to surface. And I think it must be hard. Well, or is it? Because they say that, you know, when you become a pro wrestler, of course you were a fan to begin with. And then you walk through the doors of the WWE, and there's all these people that you've grown up idolizing. Is it wrong for you to go up and be like, you know, and tell these people how much they influenced you in that? And would you yourself like to hear that from other wrestlers? Like, how do you feel when they say that to you?
When I first broke into the business, that's a great question. Because when I first broke into the business, the guys who trained me and the veterans that I was around at the time were like, absolutely not. Just don't be a mark. Don't be a fan. And I would say, you know, don't take the picture. That was a big thing when I first started. Like, if you were on a show with a WWE talent, former WWE talent, and you went up to them and asked for a picture, you were say goodnight. And I would say today, take the picture, do it. There's lots of people that are no longer here that I don't have pictures with, that I would love to have just a little picture to remind me of. What was the start of that question again?
So it's basically, you're going into your wrestling career, you're surrounded by people that you idolized. So do you tell them that? I know that Stevie Richards on his show said that he went up to Shawn Michaels and was like, "You're the reason that I'm here," and Shawn Michaels was an absolute prick to him about it. So he then was like, you know, do I not do that in the future? But then I think he did say it to a few other people who really were flattered by it. So did you have that moment with anybody? Was it something that you would say? And the second part of that question was, would How do you feel? And when someone said that to you, and how would you feel now?
Yeah, no, Steve Austin. That was Steve Austin for me, and being able to go up to him and say that to him. I mean, he already knew it at that point because I didn't make it a secret. The first sit down that I had with Vince, I remember my third week when they changed my name. Johnny, I got to the building and Johnny was like, "Hey, Vince wants to have a meeting with you today. They want to change your name," and I was like, "Fuck!" So I remember I made it 3 weeks in as Mr. Anderson. Yeah. And then they want to change your name. So then I sat down and I remember Vince asking me, it was me, Vince, Kevin Dunn, Johnny Ace, Stephanie. There was somebody else there too. We were all sitting in Vince's office sitting in Vince's office on folding chairs in a circle. And Vince was like, who's your favorite wrestler? And I was like, Steve Austin. Absolutely. Like, of all time. And then, no. And then they kind of made an issue out of it, made it kind of a big deal. And then it's funny because like several months later, I worked Batista, and I think it was on that SummerSlam that was that a fan posed the question about earlier. And I worked him, and then about a week later, I had flown to I was on my way to British Columbia, and I stopped in Seattle. I had a little layover. I remember checking my phone, and it was a message, and it was, "Hey kid, Steve Austin here. I got your number from the office. I just wanted to talk to you. I saw your match with old Batista. I liked the shit out of it." And he just wanted to like talk to me about some things that he saw. That he like just wanted to give me some advice. So I was able, in that moment, I was able to say, like, dude, you're it for me. Like I wouldn't be having this conversation with you if it wasn't for you.
That's amazing.
Different way, right?
Yeah.
So
totally.
I think
he must hear that all the time, because he's Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Mm-hmm.
just a shooting star and I think another part of what's really magical about Steve Austin is he wasn't there for a very long time.
Yeah, right.
He came like a shooting star. He came in, fucked shit up, and then he left us wanting more.
Raise hell, leave. Come, raise hell, leave.
100%.
He couldn't have been cooler about it too. They're just more humble and kind. WrestleMania 22, I was injured. WrestleMania 22 happened in Chicago, but I'm there as a talent. And I remember being in the green room, checking in and getting my packet for the week. And I had my dog. I had this little, he was a wire-haired fox terrier named Austin. And somehow I was in the vicinity of Tommy Dreamer and Steve. And Tommy said, "Hey, Steve, you should ask him what his dog's name is."
Oh no.
What's your dog's name, kid? Austin. Well, that's about as good a name as any, I guess.
I mean, you could save that just by being like, well, we got him from a place in Austin, Texas, and we thought, why not just?
No.
But then that guy can smell bullshit, right?
Yeah, right.
And have you had anybody in the business come up to you and say, you were the reason, or any type of, I loved watching your stuff and you really inspired? I know a lot of people saying it in the comments. A lot of people following you are saying it as a fan perspective, but
all the time. No, you know what? Like I will say this. Like recently, this was kind of a cool moment for me because there's somebody that I really look up to right now that's in AEW. Who recently, like, I went to an AEW show, went backstage, and he came over and he was like, "Hey, I just want you to know, like, I was such a huge, when I was a kid, it was you and Randy Orton." And he goes, half of like my cadence and stuff that I do is patterned after stuff that you did and said. And it was MJF. And it was like a really cool,
wow.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool moment. And
Yeah, I can
it was
definitely
funny because one of my students was standing right next to me. And then he goes like, so he goes, I really like you. He goes, I hope you don't hate me. And I was like, no, man, I fucking love your stuff. Then he walked away, and my student, there was just like this silence for a minute, and then my student went, because that must feel good. Like, oh, I don't know. What are you talking about? What do you mean?
I think MJF is obviously a trailblazer. He is one of one, and
Yeah.
one of the main reasons is because you can't see through him. Nothing seems fake. But I have also heard whispers that he might actually be one of the sweetest guys behind the scenes.
I don't have a lot of interaction. I didn't have a lot of interaction with him, but he seemed like obviously. I got nothing but nice things to say about the guy.
Yeah, no, I think he's great. And you know what? It's only a matter of time until he shows up in WWE, right? That's remember when everybody's like, "Oh, we'll never see Sting in WWE," and some of the old timers are like, "Of course you will. You will eventually. You will eventually." He is an AEW flag bearer, but if we were to believe that he's going to have the career he's going to have and not one day end up at WrestleMania, you're crazy, man.
Do you think he'll modify the tattoo?
No, I think. Do you know what? I think by that time, I think by that time, AEW and WWE will probably be where TNA and WWE are. You know, because they're so different anyway. Truly, they're in their own lanes. I think
Anastasia's convinced they're already there right now.
I think so. like that they're friends. WWE and AEW.
It's all a work.
The scenes.
That's what she thinks.
Well, both the cans. We need to get Anastasia on at some point and discuss this in great detail. But I think there's too much. There's too much at this point.
It's interesting though when you think about it, right? It's interesting.
It'd be a great debate. But I don't think they're there yet. But I think eventually, it could happen.
Remember when Shane went there and had that little meeting with?
What was that about? What could that be about? Hey? Well, you never know. But you know what? If it is revealed, we have to have Anastasia on here being like, told you, motherfucker. I called it, right? That'd be class. But I'm looking for... Do you know, here's another episode we'll do in the future. I know I keep saying that. We will come up with wrestlers from either side and say, right, this wrestler would be great as a WWE wrestler, and here's why. And this WWE wrestler would be great in WWE, here's why. That'd be a great episode. If people want to see that, put it in the comments. Connor, do you have another question?
Yes, I do. Okay, so this one's from Gamer Ducky. It's kind of like a couple questions, but bear with me. So, hey, can you tell us about the moment you decided you wanted to be a wrestler? What match were you watching? And then part 2 of that is also, what's your experience working with unprofessional wrestlers? Did you have to carry the whole match? Any sandbagging or no selling?
I don't recall the exact match. I do recall the moment when I found out that you could learn how to be a professional wrestler by going to wrestling school. And I was at that party, and my friend was like, there's like wrestling schools you can go to. And that blew my mind. And I went home and I searched up wrestling schools, and I found one in Chicago, and I reached out to him that night, left a message, got a call back. And then a week later, I'm in Green Bay, and I'm having my tryout. I think I paid $175 to go do a tryout, and jumped in this ring, this rickety old ring. It's a low rider, 16 by 16 foot. Ropes were kind of saggy, not like really, really tight. Rips and stains all over the canvas. And I was just like, this is awesome. I am home. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. And I remember I went through the little tryout, and then we went and had lunch afterwards. And they were like, is this something that you want to continue? And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, yes. And then that was it for me. And then what was the second part of that question?
So your experience with unprofessional wrestlers, did they sandbag you? Was there no selling if you ever had to carry a whole match? Things like that.
I don't believe I've ever had an experience where, I've had nothing but good experiences as far as that goes. Some wrestlers are more difficult to work with than others, but I think just because our chemistries don't align very well.
When I was younger and I got a Twitter first time, I was like, oh wow, I can tweet wrestlers and ask them questions. And I asked Bob Holly, I asked him, and it was because someone had posted a video of him taking a move from Lesnar where he apparently sandbagged it, and Lesnar was like, well, fuck you, you're going down on your head, right? And I tweeted Bob Holly, and I was like, is this true? Did you sandbag Lesnar,
no.
and did he drop you on your head for it? And he was like, you're one of them piece of shits that believes everything they read on the internet. And then he blocked the shit out of me, right? So I don't suppose you know if there was any truth to that at all. No, because I think that it wasn't. I don't think he did sandbag him.
I think Bob Holly, like my experience with Bob Holly working in the ring, like he was awesome to work with. Mm-hmm. Like, I think he wouldn't want to look bad. Like he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I said last week, you can tell when somebody's sandbagging as a performer. So I just don't see him doing that. But.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, since many years ago when I tweeted him, I then have heard more interviews about that. And a lot of people, it seems to be that they were like, no, that's not the case at all. It was just mistiming, you know. But it did actually, I think, cause Bob a lot of issues with his neck.
Yeah,
since then, I then read his book, which went into it further, and I had a different Twitter account. I don't know why. It wasn't because of trolling or anything like that. I just had a new Twitter account.
Did he block you again?
No. I tweeted him very nicely and said your book was amazing, one of the better wrestling books I read. And I know I said it on the previous show, and I said a bit about how he met his wife, which was excellent. He met his wife at the start of his life, his adult life, and then the business happened. They were not together anymore, but as he came out of the business, they rekindled and got married, and they're together now. So I said that was beautiful, great story, and it's a really good book. So.
He had some wonderful things to say about me in that book too.
There could be a future episode as well. Hopefully, but it's Bob Holly. I think he's got wonderful things to say about everybody, really, right?
I actually I love Bob.
Yeah,
and we've had our differences, and we have since communicated. We've actually sat down and talked, and we're all good.
That's good. Good. So Bob Holly's someone that should have his own show, for sure. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? This episode is 2 hours now, 2 hours and 50 minutes where we're at. These questions keep on coming, so what we'll do is we'll part 2 this. There's still many more questions. Also, if you want your chance to get your question in for the next part 2 of Ask Ken, which will be in a couple of weeks, fire them down below, send us an email. We have a link tree in the description of this episode. Not only that, follow us on all the social media. Just give us your question wherever it is that we are. We will see them. We will bring them on to the next show. If we haven't got to your question in this episode, it will be in the next one. Make sure that you're subscribed to the show. If you want to listen to it on the go, you can do that on every place that you can find an Audible show. Also, remember that the Academy, SOPW.com. If you want to learn to become a professional wrestler, just like what Ken was saying when he got into the business, you can go to the website, check out all the cool stuff that they have there, all the information. Make sure you contact if you're in the area. No better than to be trained by someone that is a wrestler. Before we go, Ken, we always leave it on the words of wisdom. What are your words of wisdom for not only the wrestling, the aspiring wrestlers, but fans and fans alike?
Okay, are you ready?
Here we go.
Stop slapping your fucking leg.
Never heard you mention it.
In case you've never heard me say that before.
Yeah, we would like to see a wrestling world where that doesn't exist, or at least if it's disguised.
Just less, just a little bit less. Like cut it in half. Let's try.
100%. Thank you everybody for watching the show, staying with us a full 2 hours, or even if you just watch the clips or you're listening on the go. It's actually been a pleasure for us. Ken, it is always a pleasure to speak to you, whether it's on the show, through text, but it's truly a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. The pleasure has been all yours.
Truly it has. Thank you. And we'll see you next week for